Thank you for staying with us on Consider This. I'm Melissa Idris. With me tonight is Ross Tapsell from ANU's Malaysia Institute. Now, I want to talk, Ross, a little bit about the rise of WhatsApp as a primary vector for disinformation and misinformation as well. Malaysians, we love our WhatsApp groups. That seems to be the way we get our news, our information, and what's for dinner as well. So, how have you seen in your research WhatsApp being adopted?
Yeah, really culturally specific in a lot of ways, but also, of course, WhatsApp is growing as a platform globally. I mean, I've spent time in Southeast Asian villages. It's interesting, in the pre-digital era, it's interesting to think about how information was passed around, and often a lot of it was gossip, and, you know, my friend said this, and part of it was about being a good citizen, just passing on information, even if you weren't sure it was 100% true, particularly for older generations, you know, sitting around in a kampong and talking a bit of gossip, and I heard this and I heard that, and my uncles, brothers, aunties, sisters said this. And I think in a lot of ways it's just now moved online. You know, young people are always telling me, students are always telling me, oh, my uncle or my aunt or my parents are always sharing this stuff. I think part of it is just sort of being a good citizen in a rapidly evolving information society.
It's almost a tribal thing, right? We want to communicate with our tribe. What do you tell your students or young people who come up to you and say, well, in my family WhatsApp group, I've got an uncle who's always sending me all these dubious messages. What do you tell them?
Well, the interesting thing to ask someone's uncle there would be, what do you use the internet for? And interestingly, in Southeast Asia, a lot of older generation of people are just getting their first smartphone for the first time in their life at the age of 50 or 40s, 60s. And they're really only using it for two things, and that would be WhatsApp and increasingly Facebook. And a lot of that is just about communicating with their local people and family who are, you know, outside of their kampong or area. So it's easy, I guess, for younger people to be critical, but they often use their smartphone for a whole range of platforms. While the people who are what we might call on the digital divide, as in they have internet access, but they don't have access to a vast array of what the internet offers, which is why, by the way, I'm generally against Facebook's free basics, because it encourages citizens to stay on Facebook because it's free and not go to other parts of the internet. And I think the more access people have to the internet and the faster that access is, the more likely they are to get a whole range of information.
Okay. Well, Ross, it seems to me that you've got the digital natives, right? You've got the young people who seem to know how to verify or feels, I guess they have this innate suspicion of whatever they see, they want to check whether it's true. There's a little bit more skepticism there. How are you talking to perhaps a different generation who, as you mentioned, are dealing with, you know, the idea of fake news and misinformation for the first time? What are you telling them? How are you telling them to respond to these types of disinformation-fueled messages?
Right, and this is where we go into the fields, I guess, of digital literacy programs or media literacy programs.
Does that work, Ross?
I think they're being adopted now, and I think there's a number of NGOs and fact-checking organisations and indeed governments who are trying to improve digital literacy in Southeast Asia, and that's really important, right?
Who are they targeting?
People who, the people I discussed before about people who are getting smartphones for the first time. Schools, of course, but unfortunately you're still not, you know, it needs to be much more adopted in schools. Universities have digital literacy programs, but they're more, you know, literate people who are more higher educated. There's Indonesia has like car-free days where they talk about hoax news being a problem. I mean, these things do help. So people now talk about hoax news more than they used to, so they know it's there. But yeah, digital literacy and media literacy is really interesting. I think for the younger generation, we used to teach media literacy around you have to be careful about who might be manipulating the media, owners, governments, journalists, whatever. Now I think we need to educate young people about what is good journalism, because young people are very much skeptical of the media. Oh, don't watch this channel for this reason, or don't believe that newspaper because that's pro this or that. And in fact, we need to say, well, okay, what journalism can you rely upon? What is quality information that you can get? Because the more we say, oh, you have to be skeptical of everything that you receive, then people just tend to move towards media that they agree with.
Right, and it just confirms their world's view. All right, well, unfortunately, that's all the time we have on the show tonight. Ross, thank you so much for joining me and sharing insights into this. It's been a fascinating conversation.
Thanks for having me,
Thank
Melissa.
you. I'm Melissa Idris, signing off for tonight on Consider This. I'll be back with another episode tomorrow, same time. I'll see you then. Good night. Thanks, Ross.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Done.